Now, Wose family, we are on to the message which will be given to us by Minister Bill.
Grand Rising will say, Grand Rising.
Grand
Today
Rising.
I want to take a dip back to our basics. We need to break a few chains today. I'm going to play a little something like Mos Def said. Yeah, the same song that our own sounds of Ma'at brought to us, that's the inspiration. That's the notice. That's our focus. Freedom. Freedom is one of the basics here at WOSE. As Marcus Garvey said, we're going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because while others might free the body, none but ourselves can free our minds. In Stolen Legacy, Dr. George G.M. James reached way back to recover for us the wisdom of Kemet on that same point. While the word chains speaks of things that bind the body, Dr. James used the word fetters for those things that bind our spirits and our minds. He knew, like Garvey knew, our ancestors in Kemet also knew that the fetters on our minds are often the hardest to break. But we're here at WOSE about finishing that work. We want our people to be free, to be free, to be free. In being free and breaking those fetters, we need to know exactly what they are, lest they bind us without our knowing. Thankfully, Dr. James pointed the way. Mostly. I say mostly, because like the people of Kemet were building for eternity, Dr. James was writing for eternity. We need to connect the last dot. Dr. James wrote, the earliest theory of salvation is the Egyptian theory. The Egyptian mystery system had its most important object, the deification of man, and taught that the soul of man, if liberated from its fetters, could enable him to become godlike and see the gods in this life and attain the beatific vision and hold communion with the immortals. He went on to say the study of science was a required condition to membership in the Egyptian mystery system, and its purpose was the liberation of the soul from the 10 fetters. The Egyptian summum bonum consisted of 5 stages, during which the neophyte developed from a good man into a triumphant master, attaining the highest spiritual consciousness by means of casting off the 10 bodily fetters. In the Egyptian mysteries, the concept of the supreme God is expressed as the purpose of virtue, and that is the salvation of the soul, by liberating it from the 10 fetters. This process of liberation is a process of purification both of mind and body. Therefore, the purpose of man's life is freedom from the fetters of the body, in which the soul is confined. And the practice of virtue of wisdom makes him like a god, even while on earth. The main purpose of the Egyptian mysteries was the salvation of the human soul. The Egyptians believed the human body to be a prison house where the soul is chained by the 10 fetters. The doctrines of the 10 virtues and the 10 fetters are as old as the Egyptian history itself. Each commandment or discipline represented by a principle of virtue, and the function of each virtue was to remove a fetter. Hence, a life of virtue was antecedent and preparatory to those further experiences, that is, the initiations which led to gradual perfection and the divinity. And finally, Dr. James wrote, this system of ethics belonged to the mystery system of Egypt, which required neophytes to keep the following 10 commandments, underlying which were 10 principles of virtue. The neophyte must control his thoughts, control his actions, have devotion of purpose, have faith in the ability of his master to teach him the truth, Have faith in himself to assimilate the truth. Have faith in himself to wield the truth. Be free of resentment under experience of persecution. Be free of resentment under experience of wrong. He must cultivate the ability to distinguish between right and wrong, and cultivate the ability to distinguish the real from the unreal. And here, let's take a breath. We need to know that in writing for eternity, our people in Kemet and Dr. James had to write general. That leaves it to us to identify the specifics of our time, to see the fetters clearly as they reemerge in 2023 to bind us. We're going to do some of that today, stepping quickly again through the 10 virtues and identifying some of our contemporary fetters. 1, we must control our thoughts. But in 2023, we have things that Dr. James didn't have, that our people in Kemet didn't have. We have clickbait. More clearly, we have intense distractions not known to any prior generation. Phones let strangers talk to us inside our own homes. Acquaintances send us messages at their convenience. Dozens of message streams come from our oppressors flowing 24/7 through the airwaves. And every 10 minutes or so, the media we choose gets interrupted to tell our children not to be like us, Progressive Insurance. If we're being distracted, we're losing control of our thoughts, slipping back toward the mental slavery Garvey warned against. It's controlling our thoughts that frees us from the fetters of others' manipulation. We need to see those manipulations clearly and nullify them. 2, we must control our action. Yeah, that still means mainly controlling our thoughts. We don't want actions to favor our oppressor's ice because we think it's cooler. But controlling our actions also means controlling the means for influencing our thoughts. We need to give our own people a chance to offer us our truths. We need information. We need to get it from our channels, our newspapers, our radio, television, and increasingly our apps for whatever devices we use. 3, we must have devotion of purpose. That means we need both patience and balance. A single well-aimed shot may get you a rabbit for dinner. A single evening of witty conversation may get you laid. But crops require planting and tending for some time before a full harvest. And even within each significant effort, we can easily be distracted. As the Hosea says, do not misuse your time while following your heart, for it is offensive to the soul to waste one's time. In our time, the richness of our society and our ancestors' legacy offers more interesting options than we can possibly explore. It's balanced devotion, devotion of purpose, which serves us and assures our progress. That balanced devotion of purpose is what looses the fetters of impatience and distraction. 4, we must have faith in the ability of the master to teach the truth. This again is a challenge to our balance and time management. As Minister Imhotep says, we are all in various states of ignorance. Knowing no source is perfect, we must think for ourselves and test assertions when we can. But life is too short to personally test everything. So we must make good progress by trusting our teachers, lest we waste time confirming what they already know. The life and writings of Asa Hilliard highlight that powerful possibilities in good teacher-student collaboration. In our times, we're challenged to balance the gifts of teachers with the need for self-reliance and hands-on experience. Hands-on learning is essential, but we can only learn enough by learning from others, by learning from our teachers. 5, we must have faith in our ability to assimilate the truth. When we get the truth, it can seem complicated. How do we navigate our way forward? How? As we always have, with a map. Yeah, that word map has long meant a wayfinding tool, a tool for discerning where we are and which way to go to reach what we want. And though map mainly refers to physical spaces, by extension, it includes abstract space. So we now commonly map out a strategy. We map out our academic studies. We map out our careers. Whether physical or procedural, a map is some refinement of memory, our personal memory or communal memory, which helps us render complex situations in simple and manageable terms. So when we map out our studies, we reduce the complexity of interlocking prerequisite sequences leading up to our degree to simple things, like if it's 9 o'clock, go to anatomy class. We try to broadly forge simple tools all the time, but that's always a compromise. Whether our map is for geographic or abstract spaces, it's always a wayfinding tool, a tool for discerning where we are and which way to go next. Whether it's as crude as an L drawn in the sand for a wide receiver, or as subtle as 42 declarations evidencing a moral life. We've long communicated graphic and verbal maps to guide our turns and convey our path of truth. And we continue that today. 6, we must have faith in ourselves to wield the truth. This is a challenge to active righteousness. Just knowing what's right and true is not enough. If we don't wield the truth and act to shift things toward the good, we condemn ourselves to creeping Isfet, condemning all who follow to reestablish what is right and true before they can progress to where we already are. Not wielding the truth we have discards our work and the work of those who helped us reach and find that truth. Our constructed progress only happens by reshaping our world to embody, externalize, and offload our learnings. Without embodiment, we soon spend all our energies refreshing what we've already learned. We must make our truth manifest in the world, lest this fetter bind us to perpetually recreate truth. It's our ability to manifest, to wield the truth in continuing creation that frees us of this fetter. 7, we must be free from resentment under the experience of persecution. This is a challenge to our reciprocity and to our balance. Not responding to predation makes us dinner. Not responding to unjust assertions can let those assertions become the new normals. Unchecked, that's a path to death via subjugation. Still, resentment threatens to distract from our purpose into life-wasting conflict. In 2023, the fetter of resentment threatens to suck our life energies into meaningless conflict, distracting from our real purpose. For ourselves, our community, our purpose, we cast out resentment. 8, we must be free from resentment under the experience of wrong. This, again, is a challenge to our righteousness. Yes, we're called to righteously assert truth and establish right order. But where we see injustice and falsehood, we must limit our efforts to correcting the situation and structuring to stop future Isfet. We can't escape our fetters if we waste our time and energy on punitive or vengeful actions, even where others have acted wrongly. 9, we must cultivate the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. This challenges us to see justice clearly, in spite of the many complications. It may seem a new phenomenon. Muddying right and wrong is an ancient form of Isfet. If a person can be persuaded right is wrong and wrong is right, they can be persuaded to any evil. Think of Dylann Roof. Think of Tim McVeigh. The predators and destroyers often profit by manipulating others. Weakness in distinguishing right and wrong makes good puppets, Ascari, for such manipulation. The more complex our societies become, the more abundant the traps become. We can't stand on subverted footings of others' distortions. We must stay engaged, sharing often with our scholars to escape the fetters of their moral seductions. Finally, 10, we must cultivate the ability to distinguish between the real and the unreal. This final virtue challenges our discernment of truth. A person persuaded right is wrong and wrong is right can be a tool of Isfet. A person persuaded real is unreal and unreal is real can also be a tool of Isfet. Such a person can be used to maim, kill, and subjugate for their manipulator's gain. Ultimately, we all get info through others. We need to assure that we select who to teach us, that we select those who teach us as sound sources and advisors who truly share our interests. In 2023, we know this challenge as a fetter of lies and distortions. We must diligently vet our info as much as we can with the teachers we select. We often sing, listen more often to things than to beings. We know, as our ancestors knew, that engaging nature more than society helps solidly ground us in our expectations. We're warned to stay conscious or woke, lest others ensnare us with fetters of their deception. It is our frequent sharing with community, with the scholars we select, which lets us escape the fetters of rampant lies. That final point, our unity, actually helps us break all the fetters. Again, let's hear from Mostep. As Professor Arma wrote, we are strongest in our working, breathing, thinking together as one people. Weakest when we are scattered, confused, broken into individual unconnected fragments. Let us strengthen each other by pulling together. Harambe! Harambe! Harambe!
Harambe. All right, Bill.
Harambe. Ashe, Ashe. Thank you, Minister Bill. Thank you for bringing us that message, that awesome message, the message of liberation of the soul, the message to that the function of our virtues is to remove the fetters, the lesson of bringing what was in antiquity to 2023, the lesson of that we need to be in more control of what goes out to our people, as well as selecting our teachers, which means what comes in to us. We thank you so much, Baba Bill, for telling us the practical ways and means to live these 10 virtues here in 2023. And also the engagement of nature, which is very, very important, highly important. So if these messages touched your soul, if these thoughts and ideas that have come down through from the Most High through Minister Bill has hit you somewhere in your heart, somewhere in your life, somewhere in your mind, and you would like to join WOSE, or you would like to know more about WOSE, this is the time to raise your hand, to do some waving. It's me, it's me, it's me, it's me. I want to know more. Do these things at this time so that somebody can contact you, get in touch with you, so that you may know more about WOSE Community Church. And we had a little bit of, while we're waiting for you to make up your minds, we had a little bit of the what we believe and what we practice a little bit earlier, but just to let you know the rest of the what we believe, what we practice, I'll read that while you're making up your mind to raise your hand or to shout out, I would love to be a part of this community, to know that WOSE at WOSE, our way is not a random path. Our way begins with coherent understanding. It is a way that aims at preserving knowledge of who we are. It is with this conviction that we study the rich heritage of our African people. The way is reciprocity. The way is wholeness. The way is unity and self-determination. It is creativity, collective work, and responsibility. Our way is faith, purpose, and cooperative economics. The way knows no oppression. Our way creates. Our way worships and praises the God of our ancestors. The way is life, and the way destroys only destruction.